single dad janitor whispered, "Stop the $3 billion deal." What the woman CEO did next. Shocked, the whole board, the towering glass building of Evercore Industries, sparkled under the morning sun. Inside, tension buzzed through the boardroom. Today was supposed to be historic, the final vote on a $3 billion merger deal that would change the face of the company. The press was waiting, investors were watching, but none of them saw what was coming. At the far end of the boardroom sat Alina Marlowe, Evercore's brilliant and notoriously unshakable CEO. She wore a navy blue power suit and an expression carved from stone. At 39, she had built the company from a struggling startup into a global titan. She was known for numbers, not nonsense, and absolutely no one questioned her decisions until the janitor did. David Walsh had worked nights for 3 years, quietly cleaning the marble halls and executive floors of Evercore. A single dad to a young daughter with special needs, he kept his head down and never spoke unless spoken to. To most of the board, he was invisible, but David had once lived a very different life, one he kept hidden. He was an economic ranked analyst before the 2008 crash wiped out everything. When his wife died unexpectedly, he gave up everything to care for his daughter. The only job he could get that let him be there for her in the day was janitorial work. But that didn't mean he stopped thinking, or reading, or noticing. The night before the vote, David had been mopping the floor outside the executive lounge when he overheard a conversation. Two suited men whispered about bleeding the company dry after the merger. One mentioned offshore accounts and falsified valuations. The entire $3 billion deal, a trap. David didn't sleep that night, and the next morning, dressed in his gray uniform with a mop in hand, he made a decision that would change everything. As the boardroom buzzed, David knocked once and stepped inside. The room fell silent. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, quietly but clearly. "Ms. Marlowe, may I have a word? Privately." A few board members chuckled. The CFO scoffed. "We're in the middle of a historic decision, man. Take your mop." But Alina held up a hand. Her piercing blue eyes narrowed. Something in David's tone, something calm, urgent, familiar. She rose. "Give me a minute." In the hallway, David leaned close and whispered, "You're about to walk into a trap. The merger, it's a setup. Offshore accounts, a set bleed. I overheard it all last night. If you sign the deal, you'll lose everything within 6 months." She stared at him, stunned. "You have proof?" David nodded. "I wrote down everything I heard. Names, times, details, and I know how to trace the shell companies. It's not my job anymore, but I used to do this." What happened next shocked the entire board. Alina Marlowe walked back into the room, stone-faced. She sat down, looked directly at the lead investors, and said, "This deal is off, effective immediately, and legal will be opening an internal investigation." The board erupted. "You can't just." "I can," Alina snapped. "And I will." She turned to her assistant. "Bring security. I want everyone involved in this merger plan held for questioning before they leave the building." 2 weeks later, the headlines exploded. CEO cancels $3 billion deal after janitor uncovers corruption. Woman CEO names former janitor new head of corporate integrity. David Walsh, once invisible, now wore a suit and carried a badge that read Director of Ethics and Compliance. His daughter, Mia, got the full support of Evercore's Health and Education Fund. Alina made sure of it. When asked why she listened to him, Alina simply said, "Wisdom isn't about titles, it's about truth. And sometimes, the quietest voice is the one that saves everything." In the days following the canceled merger, Evercore Industries found itself in the eye of a corporate storm. The media buzzed with theories. Who was the janitor? How did his CEO trust him so fast? Was this an inside coup? But inside the building, Alina was busy cleaning house. David sat in a modest office, just off the legal floor. It was temporary, Alina had said, but everything felt temporary. His badge, the fancy computer, the meetings. He wasn't used to people listening when he talked. Now, execs leaned in and took notes. Meanwhile, Evercore's legal team, backed by the FBI, was unraveling a complex trail of fraud and betrayal. 3 board members were implicated. One had already fled the country, and every night, David went home, microwaved mac and cheese, and helped Mia with her reading homework like nothing had changed. Alina, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about him, not just because he saved the company, but because she saw herself in him. She, too, had grown up poor, raised by a single mother who scrubbed office floors at night while Alina read books by the janitor's closet. She had worked twice as hard to prove herself in boardrooms full of men who thought she was emotional for speaking with conviction. That night, she called him into her office. Not about numbers, not about ethics, just to talk. "What did you lose?" she asked, softly. David blinked. "I don't follow. You said you used to be in finance. What happened?" He hesitated. "I lost my job in the crash. My wife passed a year later. I had a 2-year-old girl and no savings. I took the only job that would let me work nights and be with her in the day." A pause. "I never wanted pity. I just wanted peace." Alina didn't speak for a long moment. Then she said, "You deserve more than peace. You deserve purpose." A month later, a new board meeting was called. New members had been appointed. The company had stabilized. But today's meeting had one item on the agenda: a vote to create a new internal oversight division. The proposed director, David Walsh, whispers, flew across the room as Alina entered with him beside her, not in a janitor's uniform, but a tailored gray suit. "This man," Alina said, "saved this company with nothing but integrity, guts, and a mop. If we had half his clarity in this boardroom, we'd be 10 times stronger." An older board member, skeptical, cleared his throat. "With respect, Ms. Marlowe, are you promoting a janitor to a top executive role based on one lucky moment?" David stepped forward, calm. "No," he said. "She's promoting a man who was ignored for 3 years while fraud grew under your nose. One who listened when you didn't, and one who still believes this company can do better." The vote passed unanimously. 6 months later, Ever posted record profits, but more importantly, it had a reputation, the company where ethics actually mattered. And Alina and David became an unlikely team, the CEO and the former janitor, rebuilding a business with truth at its core. Every Friday, David still picked up his daughter at 3 p.m. sharp, and every now and then, he'd smile when he passed. The janitor's closet, a quiet reminder of how far a whisper can go when the right person listens.